Okay, so we're gonna get started with our dry ingredients. And just like the name suggests, dry, they're things that are dry. So our first dry ingredient, and we're gonna mix all our dry ingredients in the big bowl. So our first dry ingredient is the flour. It sounds like the word flour, but it's spelled differently. So it sounds the same, but it's spelled differently. Do you guys know how to spell this type of flour? It's F-L-O-U-R, flour. So I'm gonna pour some of this in here. Oop. Gotta be careful because sometimes it just rushes out and I don't wanna make too much of a mess. All right, gotta pour your flour in there, okay? So this is 1 cup of flour. You're gonna pour your 1 cup of flour into your big bowl. If your flour is lumpy, you can use a sifter and just sift it into your big bowl so that it comes out nice and fine like fairy dust. Okay, when you're done with your flour, your next dry ingredient is your baking powder. So this is powder for baking. And although pancakes are, actually they're not baking, but they're cakes, so they need some baking powder. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my teaspoon, this little guy over here, and I'm gonna use 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And the baking powder helps to make the pancakes nice and fluffy. So if you're like me and you love super fluffy pancakes, this is the secret ingredient. Ta-da! I like the sound that makes. Okay, so we've got flour and baking powder, and my next thing that I'm gonna put in here is sugar. Sugar's a fun one. It sounds like a sh at the beginning, but did you know that you don't spell sugar with a sh? It's actually S-U-G-A-R. And I'm going to use my tablespoon, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. You can add less sugar when you're making it if you would like to. It's not important to use 2 tablespoons. I wouldn't add more though, because then your pancakes are gonna be way too sweet and that will just taste yucky. All right, so once I've got my flour, my baking powder, and my sugar, there's a special ingredient that really helps to bring flavors out when you're cooking. You wanna know what the secret ingredient is? I didn't say it at the beginning. Can you guess what it is? Did you say salt? The secret ingredient is salt. So we're gonna do the little salt sprinkle like this. You wanna get just a little sprinkle of salt. I'm gonna put just a little other sprinkle. And you might be like, Mrs. Quaker, why are you making salty pancakes? But you know what, guys? You don't actually taste the salt. The salt helps to bring out the other flavors. So it helps you taste the vanilla and the yummy sugar when you're eating your pancakes, okay? So here are my dry ingredients, and I'm gonna use my spatula, and I'm gonna mix them together. Shoop, 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 shoop. Dry ingredients, donzos. Time to move on to the wet ingredients. I'm just gonna scooch you over to the side over here. And my first wet ingredient is an egg. I'm really hoping that I don't get any eggshells in here. So I'm gonna crack it and boom. If you do accidentally get an eggshell, you can use the big eggshell. And for some reason, I'm guessing there's a science behind it, it's really great at scooping out the little bits of eggshell. So that's a little cooking tip. I like to make sure I get all of my egg out because I don't want to waste it. All right, I'm gonna put this over here. My next wet ingredient is my butter. I'm gonna get my tablespoon. And remember I told you I had already melted the butter. It's really important that you don't put your butter in when it's hot, or it's gonna cook the egg. And then your pancake's gonna have little bits of cooked egg in it. And it won't be amazing. So it's gonna like fry the egg if the butter's too hot. So my butter's already cooled down. So I'm gonna measure out 2 tablespoons. That's 1, and 2. I'm gonna get all the rest of it out. I love the taste of butter. Toast and butter is amazing. Okay, and then I'm going to add some vanilla. So I add a little teaspoon of vanilla. Here's my teaspoon, and I add a little teaspoon of vanilla. I wish you could smell that, but you can smell it in your own kitchen. Vanilla smells so delicious. Okay, I'm missing something. Milk. I've got to add my milk. That's my last wet ingredient. So I'm gonna measure out 3/4 of milk. If each of these cups is 1/4, that means I'm gonna need to measure out this cup 3 times to get 3/4, because a quarter plus another quarter makes 3/4. So let's get measuring. There's 1/4. There's, come on. I don't like to waste. 2/4. And we gotta open up the new packet, the new box of milk. Use all my muscles. Oh, Miss Moshi. Gonna have to. That happens. All right, and we're gonna get our last. So this is the 3rd one. I'm gonna fill it up extra full because the other one was a little bit low. So that's 3/4 of maziwa. That's how you say milk in Swahili. Maziwa. And I'm gonna get my whisk and I'm gonna mix this around. I'm doing my own music and sound effects. Okay, I'm going to double check that I haven't forgotten anything from my ingredients. So, in my wet ingredients, I remembered to use butter, I used vanilla, I used an egg, and I used milk. That's great. And in my dry ingredients, I used flour, baking powder, sugar, and a pinch of salt. Now we're gonna mix it all together. So, you're gonna use your spatula and you're gonna pour it in. So I like to pour it all in. And then I like to scrape out the sides so that I don't waste anything, because you know Mrs. Quaker doesn't like to waste. I'm gonna get all of it, every single last drop of yummy buttery goodness. Okay, when you've gotten all of it out, you're gonna start mixing it. Now don't go crazy, start you just want to mix it with love. You got to put love into your cooking. Say, I love you, pancakes. You gonna be so good in my belly. Then you got to mix it. I like to spin the bowl when I'm mixing. You don't have to do that. It just makes me happy to spin it. Okay. Then you mix it. You keep mixing it. You're gonna notice that your batter, so this is called a batter. You're gonna notice that it's lumpy. That's fine. Just mix it until you can't see the flour anymore. But don't mix it too much. You wanna leave it kind of lumpy, okay? But if it's still too thick for you, feel free to add some more milk, okay? So if you feel like it's too thick, but this is what my batter looks like. It's not super runny. It's still a little bit thick, okay? Then you are going to take your batter and you've got to put it into the fridge for about 10 minutes, okay? Because it's really warm here, but we want it to go in the fridge so it gets nice and cold before we fry it. There's some science to it. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you it makes delicious pancakes if you put them in the fridge first. So, I'm gonna put these pancakes in the fridge and I will be back in 10 minutes.